Everyone who has millions started from zero, from this to that, from nothing to everything. As a divine healer, let me show you the blueprint to heal your deepest wounds, step into your destiny, and become the happiest person you know. My name is Steph Mahony, and welcome to your $1 Million Life podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome to your $1 Million Life podcast. I'm your host, Steph Mahony, healer, divine channel, and the founder of your $1 Million Life, a life that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with feeling like $1 million. It is the beauty that shines from within you when you're healed, transformed, and step into your higher purpose. Your $1 Million Life is your best life, and this podcast is the roadmap of how to get you there. Today, I'm going to invite you into my own world and share my heart, to share my story with you. And it's all around love, finding love. And if you're like me, perhaps you too have been in a cycle of toxic relationships that kept you feeling isolated, misunderstood, brokenhearted. And that's the place that I want to start. So, most of you know that I created this platform, Your $1 Million Life, because years ago, my life was a mess. But I have been able to transform my mess into my $1 Million Life, which is the happiest timeline of my destiny. It's not perfect. It's not easy. I still have a lot of challenges and obstacles. But today I am living in a place of prayers fulfilled. And my hope, my pure intention is to show you the roadmap to inspire you that if it could happen for me, this is all possible and it can happen for you too. So I've learned most of my core lessons from a younger age, and all of them seem to have been lumped together for me to be able to flip it and get into this part of my life today where things are a lot easier and I'm happier and feeling fulfilled. So in the earlier part of my life, I was struggling to find love like all of us do. And this is the place that I want to talk about today specifically. And I want to use the next few podcasts to share my stories of how I've been able to flip other timelines, from having an eating disorder to being so happy and fulfilled in my life with my body and loving and accepting myself. From workplace bullying to transmuting that energy and getting a double promotion to 6 figures. I've been able to transmute and flip so many different timelines. And today we're talking about how I was able to do that by flipping toxic relationships into finding my soulmate, marrying him, and having such a beautiful relationship after so many years that we continue to renew our vows together. So let's just take it from the bottom. Years ago, I had been in this place of just wanting to get married, just like all girls do. It's the universal place of love where all of us want to be loved and accepted and to feel special and to feel important and to find that one person that one day we could be best friends and live our whole life with. Like many girls, I had it in my mind that this would happen to me. And by the time I was 25 years old, I would be married, I'd have kids, and I'd be living my best life somewhere. But it turns out life didn't work out like that. I was 26, still unmarried, while everybody around me was in serious relationships. I was still trying to find that right person, and then everyone else was starting to get engaged. And I really felt in my heart that I had missed my timeline. And I started questioning. I'm like, I believe in soulmates. I believe in true love, but maybe not everyone is lucky enough to find it. And I really held this belief because for myself, I never found true happiness in it. The first relationship I ever found myself in was a person that it ended up being a very verbally abusive, narcissistic relationship where I completely lost myself. I lost my identity. I lost my voice. I conformed to the person that he was. I didn't even know what I liked anymore. I lost all of my friends. And it was in this place, I knew right from the beginning that it was going in the wrong direction. But in my heart, I thought that this is what it's like to be committed. This is what it's like to show love, to be there for a person no matter what. So I would keep trying to fix things. I keep saying sorry. I would keep trying to make him happy. And I would keep trying to push forward, even though I was crying every single day. I would change the way I looked. I would stop wearing makeup. I would stop wearing my nice clothes and turn into baggy clothes just because it made him feel more comfortable. And I remember even there was a place that, I was even in trouble for putting on my seatbelt in the car because it insulted him for being a bad driver. So I was in this place of sheer unhappiness, but I kept looking through what I knew to be love and to be faithful, to be committed, to show up and give it my all, even though I knew in my heart that I was so scared. And what happened was that I started receiving these dreams, reoccurring dreams of us one day getting married. And it was walking down the aisle and seeing him. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I would turn around and run the other way. And it was becoming more and more and more prevalent. And it's a bit of a long story, perhaps for another time, but I finally found the courage to leave. But I was leaving to go to nowhere because I had no friends. I lost them all. I had no idea who I was. I had no sense of self-worth, self-love. I felt like everything was stripped away from me. So I felt like I was in this place of rock bottom. And I really had to even find myself, and I had to discover who I was. So for the first couple of years, I had focused on just me, on having nobody in my life, and then slowly opening my heart to having new friendships and forming new friendships and getting old friendships back into my life. I had an opportunity to travel, doing an international exchange program in Austria. And that was this place for me to stretch my wings and feel freedom, real freedom for the very first time, and just discover myself. So when I finally started desiring to get back into this dating scene, I didn't know what to do. Like, what do I do? But I was in the financial services industry. I was working with the stock markets. I absolutely loved my industry. So I believed that the way to happiness is for somebody else to also be in my industry, to love their industry, because that's what I loved. And that means I'm going to love them. And that's really all I knew. So I started dating these, white collared corporate professionals on Bay Street in Toronto. And they were so juicy and good on paper. They lived in the right neighborhood. They had this amazing job, drove beautiful cars. They were gorgeous. And every single person that I was meeting was so shallow, so full of themselves. I had no desire to actually have a true, real relationship. And the more that I gave love, the more they stepped away. And the more I felt like this trophy wife where I was only invited into their life on special occasions. And I remember one person telling me that, like, don't expect that I'm going to see you on Saturday nights because that's boys' night. And I'm like, but I had no self-worth. I'm like, okay, whatever you want. Like, I thought that was what was showing love, is to say okay and to like wither away. So, I think life continues to repattern itself until we see and acquire the lived wisdom to do better, choose better, and become better. And I kept finding myself with the same type of energy over and over and over again, because for so long, I just didn't understand that. And I kept getting my heart broken. I kept crying myself to sleep. I kept seeing my friends in such healthy, beautiful, happy relationships. And I'm like, I can't even land a guy for a couple months. What is going on? I'm like a Care Bear. I have so much love in my heart. I just don't understand what's happening, you know? And I felt like this energy of desperation of what I know now, because I would do anything and I was so passionate. And even if it was the wrong person, I thought that I could just make them the right person, you know? So life continued to downward spiral until I met the catalyst of who shook it all for me. And this was a guy who I met at a bar, was kind of geeky, super cute, nobody ever dated. And I was like, maybe he's the one. Maybe this is going to be it. You know, it was so different. And, you know, he had just come out of a long relationship of 8 years. And he's like, you know, I really like you, but I just want to take my time. I'm just trying to slowly get back in to this dating scene. So I just want to keep my distance. I'm like, oh, that's okay. Because of course, I'm like, yes, ma'am. Right. And I would meet him and I noticed that it was nothing to do with being genuine and loving and fulfilling. And he was squeezing me in the nooks and crannies of his life until I found out he was actually living a double life with this other girl. And she had lived somewhere, you know, 8 hours away up north in North Bay. And I had come to learn that this relationship was happening. And I called him out on it, and it was confessed that yes, he was dating both of us at the same time. And it was like one of the hardest, even, I don't know, maybe even harder than that narcissistic relationship for me, because I'm a person that comes with such integrity and belief and trust. And I've never been betrayed before like this. I realized my part in being in relationships that were toxic, and I was in this cycle of not being able to trust, but I'd never been in this place of somebody actually living a double life. Like, never mind cheating on me. Perhaps she thought he was cheating on me with me. But I mean, I was like looking at this and I'm like, I cannot believe that this has happened. And it was like, you know, knives in my heart and my back and my soul. And I was just quickly downward spiraling. And I felt like, you know, my angels kind of caught me, because they showed me really quickly before I was able to plant deep-seated roots, that showing me both sides of the same coin, that, you know, his relationship with her wasn't quite over yet. And that's why he wanted to see with, you know, what could possibly happen with you. And he didn't expect to fall for you so quickly, and to show this lens of forgiveness. Not that anything he did was right. And it's 100% with karma that ultimately he has to pay through karmic retribution, and that's on him. But when you look through the eyes of forgiveness, real forgiveness, you can see both sides of the same coin. You could see through a person's lens of an unhealed perspective, and perhaps try to understand why it is that they did what they did. And from you, for me, it's seeing that, okay, maybe I am better to release this and let this go. And I honestly, you know, it took me a few days, and sometimes this takes a few years or a few lifetimes to get over this kind of stuff, right? And there's no right or wrong, good or bad, but I think it was captured for me as a learning moment, that I could see so deeply why he made this choice. And I could see so clearly how this was being a lesson, and it was being tested. And I was going to choose to be better and not bitter. And I was not going to allow this person in my life to drag me down again, because I refused to go there. So I remember beginning to meditate on my life and looking at all of my failed relationships and everything that went wrong. And I was looking at this energy, and I was looking at all of us as little children, where all of us, all we were really trying to do was find love in the best way that we knew how, from the circumstances that led us to this position to meet each other. And as I reflected on their part going wrong, I also reflected on my part going wrong and what I could have done better and what I could have done differently. And as I started looking at both sides of the same coin, my heart started to soften with all of these players in my life. And I didn't look at them anymore as enemies. I looked at them as people, little souls, just like I was, just human beings trying to find love in this great big world. And as I began to really meditate on all of us as just being little children, really trying to figure it out with no rule book, with no playbook, and no sense of what was right, what was wrong. We're just trying to figure it out. I looked at us and I had so much compassion for all of us. And it was with my heart, I had this sincere desire. And I was like, God, if you're listening, I just pray that you will give all of us love and allow us to meet the partners that will fulfill all of our own hearts. And in my mind, I looked at them one by one by one, and I started to just send them peace. And when I did that, I felt peace. And I felt this hard shell around my heart start to melt and be consumed with this place of confidence and self-worth, in this place of healing where I was like literally rising up with my shoulders back. And I began to see love through a different set of eyes. And it wasn't through this place of desperation where I think you're it and I'm going to conform to everything you want to make you happy. And this is just going to work and be on anxiety pills. It was no longer that. That was my lived wisdom that I acquired. But instead, what happened was I began to see love through different perspectives. I remember walking in a park and seeing an old couple share ice cream together on this beautiful summer day. I was like, that is what love feels like. And I remember being in this car on a rainy day, and my boyfriend at the time had parked the car and were running out in this huge torrential rainstorm. And then I noticed when I was sitting inside the restaurant soaking wet how a boyfriend had driven the car right up to the door of the restaurant, had an umbrella, and walked his girlfriend in. And I'm like, wow, that is what love feels like. And I started seeing love through a different angle of what I wanted to experience. And one day I was listening to the radio in my car and this song popped up, and it was called Dream Come True from Frozen Ghost. And I listened to the song, and every single word that it said resonated so deeply. And at first it triggered me. I was like, yeah, right. Like this kind of stuff doesn't exist. And then I would listen to it again and I'm like, maybe it does exist. Maybe this stuff does exist. And then I listened to it again. I'm like, wow, what could it be like for that person saying that to really feel it? And then I listened to it again. And then I'm like, wow, what would that be for a person like me to feel that? And then I listened to it again and I was like, yes, this. I'm like, God, if you're listening, I'm like, this is how I want to feel one day. I want to feel every word as if I was singing it to this person. And it just consumed my heart and it made me so happy. And, back in those days, we had CD players in our cars. So I'd take my CD player and put it back on and repeat and repeat and repeat. And it became like this meditative state where the whole world would shut off. And I would just sit in my car in this daydreaming mode, just thinking about him. And one day when I was doing that, I remember I had this vision come into my mind, in my mind's eye, while I was driving. And it was the sun. And there was this gorgeous guy with blondish hair with big arms. And he was holding two kids in his arms and spinning them in circles. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. Like, that's him. He's holding our children. And it gave me so much hope that, like, somehow I just knew it was a spark, a vision that lasted half a second, but it lasted with me forever. And I knew that somewhere, somehow, that was my person. And I would just thank God that, like, thank you so much for showing me. Please take care of him. Please give him all of his needs. And please let him know, wherever he is in this world, that I already love him so much. And one day I'm going to take such great care of him. And it became more than an affirmation, as it was a prayer where I sincerely meant every word that I said. I'm like, I'm going to build my life into such a beautiful place. And I just want you to know that when you're ready, I'm ready too, because I'm going to have everything set up. So I worked on me and building myself to be the best version of me that I could be. I had established my career. I had worked hard to ensure I graduated with no debt, with no school debt. I had worked to ensure that I was lining up my future so that one day I would be able to, take all of, I don't know, all the silly stuff my mom was buying on, like silverware in China, and I would put it in a box. I would tell her I was like so annoyed. I'm like, why would you do this? Right. But secretly I was like hugging him, like, one day this is going to be for my home, for my family, And I would place it in a special corner with a blanket over it. And I would just like sometimes peek inside, Anyway, so I really kept on just being the best version of me. And my life was unfolding. And actually, I remember, before I even met him, I just had one of these breakdowns like all of us do. Me and my girlfriends, we went on a girls' trip. It was like either Chicago or New York City, one of these places. And me and my girlfriend were flying back on the plane. And the whole time I saw all of them in these like happy, beautiful relationships, talking about their beautiful relationships, how they missed all their beautiful relationships. And I'm like, we got on the plane, my girlfriend's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be the old cat lady. She's like, what? And she was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. And I was like, I just don't understand. Like, how is everybody like settling down in their life? And like, I thought I was going to be married when I'm 25, and now I'm 26 and I'm still single. Like, what is happening to me, And I just felt like I missed the boat. And, she just gave me a hug and she encouraged me to go online. And she actually created this online profile for me to meet somebody. She's like, Steph, I'm sick of your silly cat stories. Like, you need to go meet somebody outside of your circle. Like, these Bay Street guys are not doing it for you. Like, go meet somebody else. So she had created this online profile for me. And I went on there and I was like, oh, it's actually not that bad. Like, I was meeting some decent people. They weren't so crazy. I had some funny stories, but I would just laugh it off, But like the summer's starting to come and I really wanted to just enjoy the summer with my girlfriends. I was really sick of guys. I was sick of this dating scene and I was just trying my best to like figure out how to delete my profile, because at that moment it made it impossible. For those of you who are on online dating, I was on this profile called Plenty of Fish, and this was back in the day before it became a thing. Everyone seems to be meeting people online, which is so amazing. But back then, nobody did, so it's like secret. So I had met some people. I was like, okay, the summer's coming up. So I was trying to figure out how to delete my profile. And as I was trying to delete it, I had this photo pop up, and photos pop up all the time because it's just, local guys in your neighborhood that have just logged on, and it's an opportunity for you to connect with them. So as I was trying to figure out how to delete my profile, which they make impossible, and I think it might still be on there, his picture like literally popped up in front of me, and I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, who is this? And of course, I'm like trying to play cool now, right? I'm like, he said he wanted to be an astronaut on his profile. Like, what do you do? I'm like, he said he's an astronaut. I was like, so my opening line, which I never hit on guys, but here I am. My opening line is like, so are you really an astronaut, or is this a line you use with all the ladies? That's like literally what I said. And from there, we just began chatting, but I just knew something about him. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to show desperation. I'm not going to show neediness. I'm not going to show like run. So I just really kept my composure and like played it cool, And eventually he ended up coming by my work to give me a coffee, even though I had a coffee shop underneath my building. And I remember going on my break and meeting him for the first time. He had his sunglasses on, and I just saw this smile, and he's like, here's your coffee, double, right? And I'm like, huh? He's like, just kidding. 2 milks, half sugar. And I was like, looked at him and started laughing. And it was like, for the first time I had ever experienced somebody who's genuinely funny, who could like make me laugh, and like who was so lighthearted and could joke around. And the thing with him, he was so different from anybody I had ever thought I'd be. He always makes fun of me, but anybody who I thought I would ever date, because I was used to these like white collar Bay Street guys, and here's this like fun, happy-go-loving, like, I don't know, blue collar guy, right? And I saw him like, oh my gosh, and I've never felt like, I was just so giddy inside. So it was just a coffee that he dropped off, and he dropped it off, and then he left. And then afterwards, we got together, and like we went out for our first formal date. And our date was going to this driving range where you like shoot like golf balls, right? I don't golf. So we go there, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And he comes behind me, and he takes the golf club and he shows me how to swing. So here I am looking at his arms around me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are the arms I saw in my vision. This is it. And I couldn't believe it. And I just felt like so warm inside, like so happy. And we finished our game, and then we went out for dinner. And it was at that moment we went to the restaurant. He took his sunglasses off for the first time. It was the second time I saw him. It was always with his sunglasses. And he took off his sunglasses. And then I looked into his eyes for the very first time, and they pierced me. I don't even know what happened, but I was like getting dizzy, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the lady's walking us to our table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the guy. This is the guy. So we sit down, and I was so nervous, and I ordered a salad, and I never did that. And I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I'd like run to the bathroom and like peek out from behind, and just to look at him, just to see him. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the guy. That's the guy I'm gonna marry. Like, at table number 65, like that's him. And I just couldn't believe it. And it was like, I knew that I knew. And that was a prayer that I actually always prayed to God for. I was like, God, I just don't want to waste my time with the wrong person anymore. I would rather just be single until the right person comes to me, and then I'm available and I'm healed and I have my stuff all together. And when I saw him, that's why I knew so deeply, because this is what I prayed for the whole time, to know that I know that I know that I know. And I had this amazing dinner, this amazing conversation. And after he walked me to the car, I was expecting him to lean down for a kiss, and he just kissed me on the cheek, and then he walked away with like looking back. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's such a gentleman too. So I was completely swooped off my feet, and I had never experienced this feeling of genuine happiness before. And I didn't even know that this is what was possible. And everything there, as I imagined it to be, seemed to go so quickly, but it felt so right. Soon after, we're meeting each other's friends, going to each other's friends' cottages. We actually drove the same car at the time, an Acura RSX. We had these synchronicities where he had just gotten a job opportunity in my town, and he was happening to buy a condo there. So, weeks in, we're finding a condo for him. And it was just the most beautiful experience that I've ever met. And the first time I actually really felt genuinely loved is when we were coming back home from one of these cottages, and I'd fallen asleep in the front seat. And I felt, as I was sleeping, the car stop and kind of pull to the side. And all I heard was the trunk open, and he came to my side with a blanket, and he was tucking me in. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what love feels like, you know? And I remember one day it was raining, and he just drove me to the very front of the restaurant, just as I imagined it to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just felt so loved. And there was another time where at this point we're actually engaged, and the song came on the radio, my favorite song, and Dream Come True from Frozen Ghosts. And of course I didn't tell him this. All I did was kind of close my eyes and sink back to the seat and get lost in the moment. And all I could hear him say is like, wow, this is a really good song. Maybe this could be our wedding song. And I'm like, yes, yes. And I was like bawling, So we ended up getting married. It was pretty quick. By the time our wedding day came around, it was a year and a half that we knew each other. We got engaged 10 months and got married that winter. And it was the most beautiful wedding day. There's a ton of people, which I probably would redo to like just a handful, but we had the most beautiful wedding day. But the thing that meant the most to us was our wedding vows. It was as if nobody was there, and every single word that we said to each other held so much truth and so much meaning and so much sincere happiness and commitment and excitement. And the next day at our honeymoon, we went to Jamaica. We were completely exhausted, and we're just lying on a hammock together, just reflecting on the day. And we're talking about those vows. And I remember telling him, I was like, Timmy, maybe like once every like 25 years, or maybe once every 10 years, do you think like we can go away with our family? We have a family one day and renew those vows. Like, they just meant so much to us. It'd be really, really beautiful if we could do that. And then he looked at me, he's like, sure. He's like, but that seems like a really long time. Like, why don't we do it every 5 years? And I'm like, really? And I was so okay. So as life would unfold, as fate would have it, we have been renewing our vows as a family once every 5 years. And we've been going away, just us with our little babies that are growing. And my hope and our intention is for that to be a memory that we can celebrate together and celebrate love and celebrate us growing together in love. And my one wish, is that one day I could be like that old wrinkly lady on the Titanic at the very end, where she's looking above this big, great wall of photos. And I want to be her. And I just want to look above all, like, my big wall of photos and have one framed photo of every 5 years of us renewing our vows and growing old and wrinkly in love as a family. And that is sincerely like my life's dream. And what I can tell you from the story is that, first of all, life isn't perfect, or, our marriage isn't perfect. We have ups and downs, we have struggles like everybody else. But the thing that holds so true for us is this, is that we keep each other first. When we got engaged, we had to have a meeting with our priest. And our priest sat us down, and the intention of this meeting is just to ensure you're a great fit, that everything is, you kind of align yourself with the Catholic faith. And when I was sitting down with my fiance and the priest was telling us, he's like, a lot of marriages unfortunately end. And the reason is because they do life for their children, but they forget about themselves. He's like, one day you're going to likely have your own family, but the key is to keep your relationship first place, to keep your relationship number one. Your children are a part of you. They come outside of your circle, but you keep your relationship number one. And it really resonated with us, because the happier we are as a couple, the happier we are as parents, the happier we are in our family dynamic. And this is something that we continue to live by. And it's now been 16 years that we're together, almost 15 years that we've been married. So we're living in this place of prayers fulfilled. Our life isn't perfect. We have our ups and downs, but we keep each other first place. I'm going to be creating another video about how to inject love into a relationship. If you are looking for love, how to bring yourself up into this place to align to this happiest place of happiness. I'm going to be setting up another podcast where I'm going to be talking more about this and how to find love, how to attract love, how to infuse more love into your current relationship, because this is available to all of us. And the biggest findings that I would say, looking back, that have taught me, and I hope can inspire you, is that the reason we were able to meet each other at this place of happiness in having a healed relationship is because we individually needed to heal too. So if you're searching for that special person and haven't found them yet, it could be that perhaps they're on their own healing journey, and they're preparing themselves to show up as their best self for you when the divinely appointed time is right. You cannot miss what is meant for you. Whatever is meant for you will always come back. But if we genuinely want to be in healthy, happy, healed, thriving relationships, we need to heal and love ourselves first, individually as individual people, before we meet each other as a couple. What's interesting is that, looking back, if we had met each other, let's say 6 months earlier, I don't know if we would have really attracted each other at that time. And here's why. It's because both of us were still broken and finding ourselves. He was in a place where he had just gotten out of a relationship. He was so unhappy. He kept feeling, he's living at home. He felt overweight. He didn't like where his life was going. He was just in such a bad mental place. And those 6 months, he really transformed from the inside out, starting with his mindset. And for myself, those 6 months, I was transforming myself too. I had to love myself first. I had to understand what real love was, not what perceived superficial materialistic love was, which is all I knew at that time. So when we finally had the same level of vibration, the universe opened up to us. And that's how we became a match for each other at that time. So instead of wishing things to become coming to you faster, perhaps you can shift your mindset and change your prayer that if it hasn't happened right now, maybe there's a reason why. And I just want you to know that I believe that there's somebody out there waiting for me. And please take care of them and please give them so much love and help them become their best self while I become my best self, so we can show up for each other as our best healed selves. And we'll jump into this relationship and we can move forward as a power couple, like ready to conquer the world. And whatever you pray for, whatever you truly believe, is always going to manifest for you, because you need to remember whatever you want wants you to. If you have a desire to find love in the form of a soulmate, that means that there's somebody already charted to be with you, because all of these relationships actually are divinely orchestrated before we come into this physical 3D world. Our destiny is really a form of contracts and blueprints, but our free will gives us the opportunity to play around with choice and how we deal with these lessons. And sometimes things happen a little bit later than they should because we're not learning our lessons. So learn your lessons, become healed, become the best version of yourself. If you're still hung on to jealousy and unforgiveness and unhappiness and rooted anger, these are the things that are going to hold you back, because when you meet that right person, you're going to take that pain you're still feeling and project it onto them. And suddenly they're also a bad person and you're going to push them away, right? So when you can heal all of this anger from within you, find this place of acceptance that, things didn't work out the way I wanted to, but maybe that means that there's something better, this or better. When we can come to this place of a higher level of maturity and see the world through a place of forgiving eyes and a softened heart, that's what the world is going to reflect back to us. When we can come and move forward through a heart perspective and lead with love, we're going to always feel love. If you show yourself and show your best self and see others as their best self, they're always going to show themselves with their best selves to you. Like whatever we see is always going to be mirrored back to us. And I want you to know in this place that my story is one of many. I've had to kiss a lot of frogs before I found my prince. That's how the saying goes. It didn't come easy for me. I cried many nights. I had so many failed relationships until this point. So I understand what unhappiness looks like, thinking you've lost out on life. And if you're in this place too, I want you to hold my hand and know from my heart that I feel you, because I've been there too. And if life isn't unfolding as you hoped for, if God isn't changing your circumstances, it could be that God's trying to change you. So use the time that you have. Instead of trying to avoid the pain and pretend it's not there, face it, feel it, heal it. And when you heal it and you can start to fill your own cup back up, that light is going to radiate out of you, and it's going to be what attracts that right person to you, because there's like, wow, there's something about that girl that I just love. Wow, that girl feels amazing. That girl feels like sunshine. Wow, I can talk to her forever, because you're showing up as your best self. And your prayer should be, as you're healing and up leveling, may they be healing and up leveling too. So when you meet each other, it will just be an instant match versus trying to chase. The chase is over. Everything you want wants you to. Everything is already charted. Everything is already there, written in the blueprint of the stars. It is going to align to you when you're ready for it, when you're healed, and to become a match. Don't wish your life away. Don't meet the first person and marry them out of the energy of fear and obligation, and you're just scared to be alone, because we know that those outcomes don't come in happy endings. Instead, channel all of this energy back into you to up-level your mind, to up-level your outlook. Perhaps you need to reach out into the world and see something that inspires you, just as I had to shift my own perspectives, to see what love looks like and feels like. What do you want to feel in this world? What do you want to feel like in a relationship? If you don't have a song that resonates with you, I invite you to listen to mine, Dream Come True from Frozen Ghost. It's still the most sacred song in my heart, because it literally is me singing to my husband, to the person I didn't even meet yet. And I meant every single word. And I was living that place of wishes fulfilled. I was living that place as if he was already there. And the more I felt it, the closer he was actually coming to me. And we know through manifestation that that's how it works. The more you can start to visualize it and see it and feel it, it's just going to like appear in your physical 3D world. So I hope that this inspires you. This is a different approach to finding your soulmate. I'm not here to tell you mantras and affirmations and to do rituals 10 times a day. As a healer, I'm telling you to look within you. Look within the parts of you that are feeling unhappy. Look at your past relationships, because the only moment that exists in this whole universe is like right now. In the quantum universe, the only moment that exists is this moment. Not 3 seconds ago, not 3 seconds from now. It's this moment. And however we feel at this moment is what we're going to project into the next moment, into what we know is our future. So if there's anything that's unhealed with us, we're going to see that as a mirror in other people, other situations, other things. But the moment we're able to heal it, face it, see it, and rise above it is the moment that that changes. So a person who is really neglected and unhappy is going to be very skeptical if somebody shows them love. They're not going to believe it, and they're going to push them away. But a person who's healed and somebody showing them love will show that love right back, because they're instant mirrors. This is how it all works. Anything in your life that's not going well, it just means that there's a place, a void of love. There's just more love that we can fill it with, either through thoughts, with words, with intentions, with actions. And if you just lead your life through a heart perspective and make your choices based on this higher frequency, you're going to see how the universe blesses you, how all of your intentions, even if they're not wishes fulfilled, they're going to come back to you in a different way, where your heart's desires are fulfilled, because you have this intention to do good, to show love. So, my friends, I hope that this inspires you. Please leave, comments. Let me know what you think. Have you met your soulmate? Do you have any questions about how to meet your soulmate, on how to heal, how to show up as your best self? please let me know so I can respond, so I can be a partner, a champion for you and help you to heal, to overcome, and to attract everything it is that you desire in this world. And if you're new to this page, I welcome you. I ask you to like, to subscribe, to share this with somebody who might need it too. A lot of the times I think we feel really isolated and alone. Even how social media brings us all together, sometimes it's really lonely when we're only showing up as our best perfect self, but not our real authentic place in where we're feeling in this world. So I hope that my vulnerability, I hope my authenticity shows you this pathway of transformation, and that the degree of challenge that you receive, that you're dealing with in your life, is the degree of blessings and up level that you will receive. I can tell you with certainty that if I didn't experience rock bottom after rock bottom, I wouldn't have the desire, the degree of desire to make my marriage so beautiful. It's been 16 years and he's still the best guy I know. He treats me so well and I treat him so well. And yes, we have problems or we face situations and life gets challenging. Our current challenge is just pushing forward and, life in the thick of raising young children. But we always keep each other first place. We're always quick to say sorry. We're always quick to give each other space. And I'm going to teach you how to develop and build beautiful relationships. And that's what I really have a calling for the next few episodes of this podcast, to share a window into my world of how I've been able to transform and shift and up level with all of these tiny moments, because we are all connected. And if this is something that has helped me, then I know and believe that it will help you too. So from my heart to yours, I thank you for being here. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you are ready to heal your deepest wounds and manifest your greatest life, I welcome you to explore the blueprint to your $1 million life, a divinely channeled program that is creating miracles for people all over the world. Visit www.stephmahony.com.